This is a video about how to make a pinch pot. First, you're going to take your clay out of the bag. Okay. Then you want to sort of break it in half. So you're just going to sort of squeeze your fingers right down the middle. And then we're going to put this half back in the bag so it doesn't dry out. Make sure it's actually closed. If you get clay in there, sometimes the zipper pops open, so double check it. Okay. Now, this piece of clay you're going to divide in half. So I'm going to divide it again. And we're going to do a different sort of pinch pot where you make the bottom half first and then attach the top half. Okay, so we'll just sit this right here. First, you are going to wad your clay into a ball. Now you're going to stick your thumb straight down into the middle. You want to leave plenty on the other side, so don't stick it all the way through. Stick it right into the middle. Then you're going to do this with your hand. In sign language, this is duck. Quack, quack. And you're going to do that all the way around. And the reason I'm keeping my fingers straight is that keeps this side really smooth. So I'm just going to squeeze carefully in a circle. And I have the start of a pinch pot that's too thick. In the end, I want all the walls, the sides and the bottom, to all be about the thickness of my pinky. No bigger and no smaller. If it's too small, like if it's thin, it will start to dry and crack and it'll look crackly. If it's too thick, your pinch pot will be really heavy. So I'm going to just start squeezing in a circle. Notice how my hand is not sideways, it's like kind of right next to the pot to keep it vertical. And I'm just feeling for any spots that feel too thick, and I'm squeezing them a little to make them thinner. Right now I'm kind of squeezing the bottom because it felt a little thick just on some corners. Okay, there's the bottom part of my pinch pot. Now you're going to take the next one and we're going to make this a layer higher. So you're going to start by wadding it into a ball again. And this time we're going to make a donut. So you're going to stick your thumb all the way through, or you can sort of use two fingers like this. But you want that to be a hole. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn this into a cylinder by making our hand like a duck and doing this all the way around. Again, you want to be really careful that no spot is thinner than your pinky. However, if that does happen, luckily this is clay. You can just kind of squeeze it back together and that will fix it. After I show how to do this, I'll show you how to fix things if they go wrong. Okay. So once I've gotten it so that it's all about the thickness of my pinky, now I'm going to set it on top. If my clay were drier, I would need to score and slip to attach these. However, this clay is really wet. You know, if it squeezes really easily like this, you don't actually need to score and slip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one hand all the way to the bottom so that, see how it's kind of supporting on the inside? And I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to scrape up all the way around. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the inside, except this time I'm going to scrape down. So I don't know how well that will show up on the video, but I'm doing the same thing where one hand is supporting on the outside and the other is scraping down. Okay. Now that I have attached my two pieces, and they are pretty, I can't really pull them apart without ripping clay. Now I'm going to make them look nicer. So again, I'm going to put my hand all the way, my fingers are all the way at the bottom, and now I'm going to do a little bit of smoothing. Now sometimes you might feel tempted to just put a bunch of water on here, and you don't want to do that yet because our clay is still pretty wet, and if it gets too wet it will just get really floppy and sort of fall apart easily. Clay's kind of a thing where you don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry. You want it to be workable, but if it's too dry it will crack, and if it's too wet it will flop over and not hold its shape. And same thing on the inside. I'm just sort of scraping my thumb sideways, and I'm being really careful to hold one hand on the outside while the inside thumb is pressing against the same wall. So my hand moves every time my thumb wants to scrape in a new place. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a few troubleshooting things. If your pot looks about like this, where the top edge is a little uneven but still pretty thick, you are amazing. That's really hard to do. So what you're going to do is you're just going to put your fingers on either side to support the top, and you're just going to kind of press lightly to get a smooth finish on your top. If you want to, you can really carefully turn it upside down and go like this on the table too, and that'll also give it a really nice flat top. Now, if your pot looks more like this at the top and is really thin and crumbly, what I would do is take another piece of clay. So pinch off a little bit of the clay that we saved for all your extras. And you're going to make a snake. And we need it to be just about the length of this circle right here. Okay, so I'm going to sort of squeeze it so that it starts being in the shape of a snake. Then I'm going to put it flat on the table and do an M with my hands. Notice how I'm keeping my fingers really flat, and I'm not going back and forth really quickly. What happens when you do that is it sort of turns, it flattens it and it leaves finger ridges. So what you're going to do is make an M like this. And you're going to move to the areas that are thicker. Like this side got thicker, so I moved over here. Okay, now I've got a snake, which is about the same length as my top. So what I'm going to do now, I'm not setting it right on top. I'm going to put it a little bit to the inside. And I'm going to just start on one side, and I'm going to kind of press it like this. All the way around, and once I get to the spot where the other one started, I'm going to pinch off that extra and put it back in my plastic bag, which I should have closed. Okay, now we've got a nice thick top again. Okay, so same as before, you're going to kind of really even more carefully this time. Scrape them to connect them. Because if this happened to you, that means you did like over squeezing before. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of squeeze the top so that it's all connected. And I'm going to support with my finger on either side, and I'm going to scrape at the top. And now I've got a nice pinch pot. If you're not going to keep working on your pinch pot immediately and it's going to sit for a few hours, you don't want to leave it sitting out in the air, especially in Colorado, because the air is really dry here and clay dries out really quickly. So what you want to do is get a plastic bag . And put it in. And then you want to tie it shut so that no air can get in. You don't need to tie it shut so that you have to rip the bag open next time. It can be just one thing, but what I would do is sort of take the handles like this, squeeze it all the way till you're at the bottom of the opening, tie it shut like a shoelace, pull it tight, and that's it. Now no air can get to it, and it will be ready for you to continue working on it at a later time.